Now that we're a few weeks away from UFC 277, we can look back at the historic night of fights at the American Airlines Center in Dallas, Texas. Despite being one-sided in large part, this was one of the best fights in the history of women's MMA. With the toughness of the former champion on full display, the GOAT, Amanda Nunes, continued to dismantle her opponent piece by piece. We all love to see an amazing show of respect by both athletes after the fight. First off, how the fight went down. The most highly anticipated rematch in women's MMA was surely worth all the hype. The fight had an exciting build-up as the two of them worked opposite each other as coaches in The Ultimate Fighter. If you're aware of the history of fighters that are scheduled to fight each other and coach TUF as well, you know how heated things can get. Both of them wanted to get their hands on each other and end this chapter in their careers. Going into the rematch, Nunes was still a 2-1 favorite despite losing the last one. This shouldn't be surprising as she was close to being a 1,000-1 favorite in the original bout, which turned out to be one of the biggest upsets in UFC history. The fight started and Nunes took charge immediately. Pena had a similar approach to walking Nunes down, but Nunes was too slick with her footwork and kept hurting Pena with some heavy shots. If you had any questions about the toughness of Juliana Pena, this fight would have erased them all. Despite getting knocked down over and over again and having blood flowing all over her face, she continued to stick to her game plan and look for submissions on the ground. Nunes did a great job of keeping herself safe inside Pena's guard and maintained the top position to win most of the grappling exchanges as well. Next up is the respect between the two warriors. It's hard not to share a moment with your opponent inside the octagon after you've been through the wars these two women had. As soon as the buzzer rang at the end of the 5th round, we knew we were going to have a new champion, and Amanda Nunes was going to reclaim her double champ status that she wanted more than anything. In the mini-series released by the UFC titled UFC 277 Thrill and Agony, we saw Amanda share a moment with her family and her coaches. One of the biggest stories leading into this fight was the fact that Nunes left the American Top Team, which is one of the biggest gyms in MMA. She's been a part of that team for almost the entirety of her UFC career, and those guys helped her become the champ that she is. But Amanda thought it was time for her to move on and have different coaches by her side. She even said that her coaches shouldn't have let her compete in the first fight, but they didn't want to say anything to piss her off. The double champ went on to greet Pena, who was being attended by the doctors inside the octagon. Amanda thanked her opponent for the challenge, and the two shared a nice moment right before the scorecards were announced. Amanda went on to say, "No more bad blood," to her opponent, who said the same thing back. They pushed each other to be a better version of themselves, and who knows, maybe we get to see them in there again. Up next, Juliana Pena looks back at her rematch. A week or so after the fight, Pena started appearing in interviews, and she was asked about how the fight played out and what she'd do differently if they ever fought again. The former bantamweight champion was pretty confident in her skill set and said she believes she's very capable of winning that fight. Juliana thought that after the first fight, Amanda changed a lot of things about her fighting style. She thought she was fighting a completely different opponent. She also thought that now that she has seen both versions of Amanda, she'll prepare appropriately the next time and get the W. Despite the disappointing result, she was confident as ever in her ability and said Nunes wouldn't touch her the next time they fight. In the post-fight press conference, Nunes said that she wanted to go the distance to test her cardio against one of the best in the world. She also thought she could have finished Pena whenever she wanted to. The number 5 ranked UFC welterweight Belal Muhammad wasn't tolerating any criticism against his teammate Juliana Pena's performance. Belal addressed Amanda Nunes by saying that it's ridiculous that she thought she could have finished the fight when she clearly tried and couldn't get it done. As someone who knows a thing or two about going the distance, we should all listen to Bully B here. Next up, another addition to the Nunes family. Last week at UFC San Diego, Nina Nunes won a split decision against Cynthia Calvillo, and she announced her retirement from MMA inside the cage. Nina was proud of what she'd done with her career, but she now wants to step away from active competition for good to have another kid. Nina and Amanda have a beautiful daughter together, and their lives have changed since they became parents. Now they're looking to expand their family, and we couldn't be happier for them. Other related news. First up, Marlon Chito Vera gets the biggest win of his career. Two of the best bantamweights in the world went at it last week in the main events of UFC San Diego. Marlon Chito Vera took on the greatest bantamweight of all time, Dominick Cruz. The fight had an amazing build-up, and the two athletes did a face-to-face interview, which made things even more interesting. You gotta watch that one for sure. The fight started at a high pace, and it looked like it was going to be a Dominick Cruz show at the beginning, with the former champion using his elite footwork and unorthodox angles to create offense and get out of the way of any hard shots Chito was trying to land. The first 2 rounds were all Cruz, and the 3rd round, despite being extremely competitive, was scored in favor of the former champion by all 3 judges. Before the 4th round, Dom had been knocked down 3 times by Vera, which was alarming, as Cruz used to be able to take those kind of shots early in his career. As we went into the 4th round, in a fight Cruz was winning, Chito landed a beautiful left high kick as Dom leaned right into it, and it was enough to put his lights out. knockout. This was the first time Dominick Cruz has been knocked out in such a fashion, and it's also the first time he's ever lost a non-title fight in his career. Seems like Father Time is catching up with him. Nevertheless, it was a great win for Vera, who has established himself as a top dog in the division and will be looking to fight for the title soon. Next up, UFC 278 is happening this weekend. The Nigerian Nightmare is back in action against an old foe. Kamaru Usman will be taking on Leon Edwards in a long-awaited rematch for the welterweight title. The two first fought many years ago, and since then, Edwards has been on a 10-fight unbeaten streak and has made several improvements in his game. Leon criticized the champ for falling in love with his hands, as Usman has been striking a lot more in his last few title defenses. And who can blame him? He's been knocking people out left and right. But the champ was quick to respond to the criticism by saying that he wouldn't be taking that approach with Leon Edwards. Instead, we'll be seeing him go back to his roots and use the wrestling offensively. Leon Edwards wants to become only the second fighter from England to become a UFC champion, the first one being Michael Bisping. Both guys are extremely confident going into this one, and their style matches up perfectly against one another. Leon is long and rangy and likes to stay on the outside. He's also got a great offensive clinch, which he uses really well against anyone who tries to close the distance. His grappling has also improved a lot, which can be seen in his fights as he's been using it offensively. This fight is no walk in the park for the champ, and he knows it. The wait is over. It's going down this Saturday at UFC 278. And finally, Luke Rockhold making a return. It's been a couple of years since we've seen the former middleweight champion Luke Rockhold compete inside the octagon. In his last fight, he faced the former light heavyweight champion John Blachowicz and got brutally KO'd. Many people thought his time was over and his chin is now too weak to absorb those power shots. Rockhold wanted to make a return, and he's as motivated right now as he's ever been. He said that he's been having a lot of issues in his personal life and went through a bad breakup, which led to him wanting to come back. He's been looking for an opponent for a long time, but couldn't fight anyone that excited him. Well, he got one now. The former middleweight champion will be taking on Paulo the Eraser Costa at UFC 278. This card is going to be fireworks. You don't want to miss this. That's a wrap for this video. What's next for Amanda and Juliana? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.